photosynthesis. The analogy we're using is that the school is our cell, the main office is the nucleus, and the classroom, which we are in, is the large organelle. The inputs for photosynthesis are carbon dioxide, sunlight, and water, and the outputs are oxygen and glucose. Photosynthesis starts with the light-dependent reaction and segues into a light-independent reaction. The sun gives off the energy needed to start the cycle. So the first part of photosynthesis is the light-dependent reaction. Photons will interact with electrons and excite them. Electrons are then passed through the electron transport chain and to the primary electron acceptor. To replace the lost electrons, H2O donates electrons in the form of H+ ions, and these H+ ions are pumped into the thylakoid space. The H+ ions are then passed to the electron acceptor. ATP synthase allows protons to pass down the concentration gradient, and ATP synthase phosphorylates to make ATP. Okay. And then the electrons will pass along to photosystem 1 and become excited again. And then they will be passed to the NADP+ reductase. The leftover hydrogen then converts NADP+ to NADPH. And this concludes the light-dependent reaction. Okay, now we've exited the thylakoid space and entered the stroma, where the Calvin cycle begins, which is also the light-independent reaction of photosynthesis. The first stage is carbon fixation, and we start off with a 5-carbon sugar. CO2 and rubisco enter the stroma, and rubisco has the special ability to take CO2 out of the atmosphere and attaches the C and CO2 to the 5-carbon chain, making it a 6-carbon chain. ATP then rearranges the 6-carbon chain to make 3-carbon molecules, and then ATP turns into ADP. Stage 2 of the Calvin cycle then begins, which is the attachment of H+ ions. The reduction energy from electron carriers makes this process occur. After 3 cycles of the Calvin cycle, one of the 6-carbon molecules gets taken out, and this molecule becomes G3P. The 5 leftover carbon molecules starts a new cycle, and this stage is called the regeneration of RUBP. And this concludes the light-independent reaction in all 3 stages of the Calvin cycle. To conclude, the Calvin cycle continues through its 3 stages, and plants typically convert light into chemical energy with a photosynthetic efficiency of 3 to 6%. And this has been our model of the process of photosynthesis.